Hey everyone, welcome to another video. So today is a very important lesson, and what I'm going to be covering is adapting your game plan. So you know how in a lot of my previous videos I always talk about knowing how you want to approach the early lane, having your set out objectives or game plan, and what I'm going to cover in this video is when there are specific things that happen in the game, you need to be able to adapt your game plan given the champions in the game and given the game state. So what I'm going to do is go through this game with you together and go over probably the first 10 minutes and show you step by step all the adaptations that I've made to be able to both help my team and increase the chances of winning. So first of all, this is an Orianna versus Kassadin matchup. So first of all, generally in these sort of matchups where range versus melee, and the way you want to approach this matchup is you want to be able to slow build a wave early game versus Kassadin and get as much poke off as possible under tower. So that's my first objective this game. So I'm thinking already, well, I've got an Evelynn jungle and I'm versing a Rek'Sai jungle, right? So what does that mean for me? That means that Rek'Sai is going to be pressuring a lot earlier than Evelynn, so I'm going to have to adapt my warding. If I want to be able to build a wave and poke under tower, I need to know where Rek'Sai is a lot earlier, knowing that Rek'Sai can level 2, level 3 gank quite easily. So, my first adaptation of the game is that I actually ward early here. This is for two reasons. Both for me to allow me to start building a wave into Kassadin without getting ganked, and secondly, thinking that I've got an Evelynn, an early game jungler, this is going to see Rek'Sai if he chooses to invade into Evelynn's jungle to try and pick him. Because when you have a weak early game jungler and you're versing a strong early game jungler, these sort of wards can really help your team, and it can help you, give you time to be able to respond to this invade and back your jungler up and look to kind of counter that and turn it into a kill. So as this lane plays out, like I said before, I'll go over it a little bit faster, but again, I want to constantly auto the wave in the early game just so I can create a minion advantage. And what this is going to do is going to create a minion advantage for me, and I'm going to be able to slow build a wave, and then I'm going to be able to start poking Kassadin under the tower. And if I were to just keep this in the middle in the early game, it's going to be a lot harder for me to poke Kassadin because he's just going to be able to Q me. And he doesn't have to make a choice between hitting the wave and hitting me. So as you can see here, I'm starting to form this slow build. So this is, walking towards my objective. I'm able to auto him because I have the minion advantage. Everything's going to plan right now. And I knew Rek'Sai started red. So you can notice how I'm leaning onto the top side of the lane right now, both towards my vision and towards my jungler. And I'm, again, continuing to put the poke down onto Kassadin, making him try and use pot soon. I've got him to about 3/4 HP, CSing decently as well. And now, what do we see? We see Rek'Sai with only red buff looking to invade into our Evelynn's jungle. So, my second adaptation here. Well, usually what I would want to be doing is poking Kassadin under tower right now and trying to generate a lead for my lane. But now, given that I've got this ward and I've set this up earlier, I know that I have to back up my jungler here. So I just hover around my jungler here just in case Rek'Sai's in this bush, so I'm ready to respond. But he's ended up just sitting in this topside jungle. So what does that mean for me? Well, now knowing that their top laner has push on top, Rek'Sai is a lot stronger than Evelynn in the early game. I need to adapt my gameplay. I can't just continue to slow build and poke Kassadin under the tower. So what's my next adaptation here? So, given this is the case, I need to be constantly looking to back up my jungler here, try and force him out of the jungle. But then, I don't feel comfortable building a wave and slow pushing because I don't have any wards anymore since I used it early game. So I need to let Kassadin push me out a little bit. So, I'm actively thinking about, well, even though this is against my game plan, I have to accept reality and adapt to the current situation. And I can still look to punish Kassadin, but what it's going to have to be, it's not going to be under the tower. I'm just going to have to let it come out a little bit, allow me to lean onto one side, because I know now Rek'Sai's on top side, allow me to lean onto one side, and keep myself quite safe, because if you die in these matchups as an immobile mage, it snowballs absolutely out of control. And the biggest misconception about playing these sort of matchups is that you have to shut down Kassadin before he hits level 6, otherwise it's over. No, that's completely not the case. As long as you farm well, yes, once he hits level 16, but that's a long time away, then it can get a little bit tricky. But until then, farming, playing appropriately, it's better than dying. And this is a mistake I see at all Elos all the time. So notice how I'm letting him push out a bit because I have no idea where Rek'Sai is right now. I know he's in somewhere in the top side. So I have to play appropriately here. And given that my jungle, my no Evelyn, was no way going to be able to contest this scuttle here, I had to adapt as well. Because I'm like, oh, well, Evelyn's just going to have to full clear, go back to base, and come back. And I have to wait till he gets 6, really. So notice how I'm keeping in this position. This is allowing me to not get ganked. And then I see Rek'Sai topside, which he was topside. And again, this doesn't really change the way I can play my lane because what do I see? Well, their support's missing. Their jungler has so much pressure. Their top has push. There's no way I'm going to be able to set up a slow push and be able to poke by the time my jungler's around here. So again, I have to accept reality, keep it in this position. So we'll fast forward it a little bit here. Again, this is me adapting my game plan, keeping it in this position, and the way I'm playing right now is looking to just play long range poke rather than bombard with auto attacks and constant QWs. I'm just looking to just slow poke with Q, and yeah, through my adapted game plan. So now support comes up to roam, so on and so forth. The other thing as well, as this plays out, not really much I can do here because their jungler just has so much pressure. My Evelyn's 0-1. He's really far behind. Their support's roaming here and everything. There's not really much I can do here. In a lot of these matchups, when you're versing a Kassadin early game, you don't want to let him get to tier. You also want to force him out of lane early and get base with maybe like on a Darksteel and a Doran's or a Darksteel and an Amplifying Tomb and constantly keep the pressure. But given I couldn't do that, my next adapted game plan is I'm just going to farm to Lost Chapter. So here, given that we're both staying in lane, I'm like, okay, if you want to stay in lane, I'm also going to stay in lane because we're both kind of useless for now because the jungler's Rek'Sai's kind of taking over the map. My next adapted game plan is instead of basing early to put it in that added lane pressure on Kassadin, I'm adapting like, well, given I can't really pressure Kassadin too hard at the moment, I'm just going to stay all the way to Lost Chapter. Next, Kassadin ends up choosing to base and holding his TP. So, generally when you play a Spellbook mid laner, because I've got Spellbook and Orianna here, you generally want to base and teleport, but this is my next adaptation in this game. Given that this game is no way going to be played around mid lane, it's going to be played around the side lanes since there's no way we can kill Kassadin, I was also thinking, well, since they're going to have full control around mid, Kassadin's just going to be able to roam freely. So it's very beneficial for me to keep my teleport because that's going to allow me to potentially counter gank a roam. Whereas if I were to use my teleport here, not only is it going to be a waste because I know I can't slow build waves and push into Kassadin because I'm just going to die because Rek'Sai has all the pressure. Secondly, if I teleport here and Kassadin roams, I'm not going to be able to respond with that roam with my own TP here. So that's my next adaptation. So as this comes out, I'm back in lane. I've got my Lost Chapter. He's got a tier. He's on a bit of gold. He's probably got 400 gold. We're on equal gold. But this is not the end of the world. And notice how just because my early games got screwed over by the junglers doesn't mean my lane's over. I'm just farming and my role's just going to be a little different. Rather than being the hard carry of this team, I'm just going to have to farm up and be a legitimate teamfight threat. So again, my support's here. I'm able to push out. And then as my way down, I wanted to actually clear some Vision River here. So I end up clearing a ward. And then Rek'Sai comes here. And I actually hesitate. I didn't want to flash here. But then I'm like, wait, I actually have to flash because I thought he was 6. And I failed my flash into the wall. And then I have to base. So here, I have to he ends up killing my jungler again somehow. And then I actually have to TP back. So my next adaptation, given that I have no flash now, I have no teleport, Rek'Sai's completely dominating my jungler, I also now can't play aggressively, and I definitely cannot push into Kassadin at the moment. So what do I need to do? I need to keep my lane in this position and play long range poke onto Kassadin like this and try and poke on the back end. I can't look to push in Kassadin anymore. And this is accepting reality. Notice how again I'm only matching the wave. If he hits it, I'm going to hit it. And then it's kind of staying in this spot here. And I'm just, see how I'm not like all ending him in lane. I'm not like queuing through the wave. I'm trying to keep the wave in this position. I end up nearly killing him here. I actually could have killed him if I held onto my Q. But again, this is just me playing patient. And now that I've pushed him out of lane, I can get a reset. So I'm going to leave it here, and the moral of the story in this video, and I really want you to have a think about this in your own gameplay, and I see this all the time, is that People come in with a game plan and they fail to adapt, and then they complain about the jungler. Yes, you're not always going to have the pressure jungler, or your jungler's not always going to be the better jungler in the game. What you have to accept reality, and you have to adapt your game plan. And yes, this situation isn't the best, but look at this. I'm 0-0-0. I'm actually up in a bit of CS here. I'm farming okay, like 69 or around 70 CS at 8 minutes 40. It's not the end of the world, but again, I haven't died and I haven't given over other kills. And a lot of the time in solo queue, you don't have to do anything special. You just have to adapt, you have to continue to farm, and you don't want to give over kills. And that is something that is completely underrated by so many different players. So try and implement this in your own game. Try and be thinking a little bit more peripherally, thinking about the map as a whole, thinking about who's winning side lane, which side lane's winning, who has the pressure jungler, where do I need a ward, when should I ward given the situation, should I back up my jungler, how should I change the way I want to play my lane given the situation on the map. And this is just one example. This can be changed 1,000 different ways given the way the game gets played out, but I just kind of wanted to show you how I approach it in this specific game. So hopefully this makes a lot of sense. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Cheers. Thanks for watching.